Today's question is, cosplayers, what's the creepiest thing that has happened to you at a convention?
How Kawaii-maid-chan was nearly dragged to Nippon. This is a tale harking back to the early days, when I had just discovered anime. For those elders amongst us, this was back in the day when the only translated anime you could find with ease, stateside, were DBZ and Sailor Moon. Pokemon, Gundam Wing, and Cowboy Bebop were making a tentative first appearance, but to the majority of people not in the know, all anime was that Sailor Moon thing. The internet was little help in this either, as most modems were 56K at best. As such, finding other fans amongst the masses was a cause for celebration, and one would overlook some pretty egregiously bad social behaviors and negligence of personal hygiene if only it meant being a little less alone in the fandom world. Now that the stage has been set, I had just reconnected with a friend from way back when. We'll call her Crispy. To my astonishment, over the years she had gotten into anime as well. Furthermore, she knew of something that seemed astonishing. There were conventions. Okay, so like 5 people gathering in someone's basement, I figured. Surely there's not that many of us. No, she protested. There are dozens of us. As it so happened, there was a yearly convention not an hour from our houses. She'd been wanting to go, but not alone, so it was fortunate that we'd met up again. In a flurry of excitement and naivete, we planned to attend this year and began preparing our costumes. What would we dress as? Oh, Gothic Lolitas, of course. But you'll remember that this was back in the day where information on trends like this was spotty at best. Somewhere along the line, we got our elegant Gothic Lolita mixed up with our erotic Gothic Lolita and in a spectacular comedy of errors that'd make any modern EGL adherent cringe herself inside out. We ended up dressing basically as a pair of French maids. Well, maid cafes are a thing, and you see French maids pop up from time to time in anime, so no harm, no foul, right? But to show the error of our ways, and because I love green text, let me sum it up this way. Be 14-year-old girls. Wear maid outfit. Attend Anime Con. Now that you've winced, I'll move on to the meat of the story. At first, the convention seemed to be everything we'd ever dreamed. Everyone was so friendly, and we got our pictures taken a lot, cough. It was easy to ignore some of the sketchy things that happened, such as that one sweating ham planet who seemed to be constantly just around the corner, awkwardly placed behind a potted plant. Or under the escalator gazing up in slack-jawed wonder as we made our way to the second fell. Wait, what? Creepy, we decided in a quick conference amongst ourselves. But, you know, perv's gonna perv. We decided not to let it ruin our day. Then in a blatant lapse of judgment, Crispy went off for a bathroom break and I decided I was fine hanging out on my own. No sooner had she gone off than Ham Planet made his move. Maid-chan. At 14, I had my own crippling social issues. That being, I was hilariously shy. I could not speak to anyone I didn't know well, and was apt to freeze up like a deer in headlights, or, in the worst case, get sick. Unfortunately, in this case, I froze. Maid-chan, I kept seeing you around, and I wanted to say you look so kawaii. Kawaii-desu. I gaped at the squealing mass in front of me, still unable to respond in any way. He apparently interpreted my state as non-comprehension, which was honestly close enough, and changed tack, going from a screeching mess to a suddenly condescending, scholarly tone. Kawaii means cute, dear. I was complimenting you. In Nipponese, it's a great honor for a girl to be told she's kawaii. Oh, sorry. You'd probably call it Japanese, but it's actually Great Nippon. So I call the language Nipponese, it's only correct. Still staring. Registering slowly that this blathering heap is probably more than twice my age. Even though he hadn't been overtly creepy, I was getting a very serious, what the fuck, vibe off of him, although it was probably just my own social issues. I'd like to visit Great Nippon one day, you know, and I'd love to bring a kawaii maid-chan with me. Nudge nudge, wink wink. I'm still in school, I managed to say at last. This was probably the wrong thing, however. Oh, that's fine. Kawaii maid-chan could go to school in Great Nippon. I could teach her the language, and maid-chan could wear a uniform. That would be kawaii. I don't think that'd be okay, dash. It'd be no trouble, he chortled, taking my arm and looping it through his. He started to walk off with me like that, going on about his kawaii maid-chan and asking me about what anime I was into, while scolding sternly that Great Nippon wasn't anything like anime and that I shouldn't use it to form my expectations of what life would be like when we lived there. I was looking around frantically for Crispy at this point, but the girl had apparently fallen into the damn toilet, and no one seemed particularly concerned for the 14-year-old maid being dragged off by the 40-year-old blathering ham planet. After a flash of, well, this is how I die, I ripped my arm away from him, turned on my heel, and fled. I found a pack of people off near a panel room, forming a circle group that looked almost like a football huddle. Throwing anxiety to the wind, I blurted out, "Hide me," and barged into the middle of them. They had a what the fuck moment, then comically hid me in the most obvious, hammed-up manner ever, basically spreading their arms out and exaggeratedly blocking me from sight. It worked, though. I saw Ham Planet wander by looking like a lost puppy, calling out, "Maid-chan? Maid-chan," as he passed. Once he'd gone, I extricated myself from the huddle and thanked them, explaining the situation. They were cool about the whole thing, and I trotted off to go find Crispy. In a show of wonderful timing, she came around the corner just then and asked where I'd been. Needless to say, we spent the entire rest of the convention very aware of our surroundings, and while we did spot the weeb wandering around, still asking after his maid-chan, we weren't approached again that day. I'm totally late to the conversation here, but maybe someone reads the new comments. Anyway, my first anime convention I went in an awful, newbie, Father Abel cosplay. Round glasses, long silver wig, black trench coat. I was still kind of awkward in those days, so I pretty much kept to myself. That night there was a dance, and I was kind of just doing my own little dance along the walls, and sometimes when there was a group dance I would be a little bit closer. At some point this cute girl asks me to dance with her, so I gladly accept. I didn't have a GF, and I thought it was great that a girl may be showing interest in me. After the dance I thought things were going well. We kind of became con-friends, where we'd go around to different panels and such together. I saved her a seat at the AMV contest and everything. After the convention we ended up hanging out a lot and eventually got married. Now here's the fun part. A couple years after we're married, my wife starts talking to me about that convention we met at. She said that night at the dance her and her cousin were having a contest to see how many people they could get to dance with them. She saw me and thought I looked so lonely and longing to get into the dance that for sure I would say yes. So I was guy number 5 for her that night, and she was out to win the little contest she was having. Only problem, I wouldn't leave her alone after she danced with me. She tried going outside and doing other things, and apparently she was really creeped out that I kept following her around everywhere. Kind of makes me wonder why she even gave me her phone number that night. Anyway, throughout the 3-day convention I was randomly showing up and following her around and then disappearing, and she was really weirded out by me. Eventually she got a text that I had saved her seats at the AMV contest. She was way in the back of a long line and would have had awful seats, and she thought it was really nice that I saved her and her cousin a seat. Fast forward to the end of the convention, she says she kind of realized I wasn't a bad guy, and we figured we'd watch anime or hang out some time later. We ended up being together almost every day for the first month after the convention, and things really hit it off. And, as I said in my half, we eventually got married. Still married today. TLDR, I thought a girl was interested in me at a con. She thought I was a stalking creeper the entire con. We ended up hanging out afterward and got married. We lived happily ever after. The end. Yes, a question I can answer. I have been going to cons for a good chunk of my life, and I've had my fair share of creepy stuff happen to me. But this one takes the cake. This story takes place when I was 16, so it's been a few years. I was cosplaying as Alan Walker from D. Gray Man, so it wasn't so obvious if I had a chest or anything. Alan is a guy, for those who don't know. It was Saturday night, and I was sitting outside in a secluded hall trying to sleep when a couple comes up to me. They start talking to me, which really annoyed me because I'm trying to sleep. They start asking me all these questions like, how old are you? And are you a girl? Along with others, all of which I answered truthfully. I had no answer not to. They revealed to me that they were in their mid to late 20s. I'm still half asleep at this point and mentioned that I am hungry. Holy shit, these people were all over that. Come up to our room. We have sushi and soda. They seemed too excited, so I threw out that my mother had told me not to go with strangers. The guy, it was a hetero couple, started rubbing my hand saying that I looked cute in my costume. It was Alan's casual out-of-uniform costume, so not really cute if anything, and that it would look great off. I was super confused and said something like, what does that mean? They then told me that if I had sex with them, they would give me food. I bet you would be great in bed, and you're so cute. At this point, I was just saying no a lot, but he wouldn't let go of my hand. The girlfriend joined in too and was just talking about all of the sexual things we could do. But I'm only 16. That was my entire defense. We don't care. They kept on trying to convince me, and they both started grabbing my arms and trying to pull. My friend ended up seeing me and coming over. It just so happened that a friend of ours wrecked his knee and broke it, and that we needed to go. I saw the couple pout, and the guy took my phone and put his number in case you change your mind and want some fun. I ended up seeing them the next day and staying far away. Yep. When I was 18, I decided to volunteer with my best friend at a Ren fair. In retrospect, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I didn't have a lot of time to spend on a costume, and it wasn't strictly historical, kind of fantasy-based. Again, in retrospect, I have no idea what the fuck I was doing, so I ended up just wearing a pair of drawstring pants, boots, a hat lifted from a Link costume, and brought along a shitty LARP sword. I have long hair and a beard and was in good shape at the time, so I figured I'd fit in to some extent regardless. If anybody asked, I'd claim to be Conan or something. Note the lack of proper shirt. This comes in later. I was manning the gate, handing out pamphlets, when this woman, easily 10 to 15 years my senior, dressed like a fairy godmother, started eye-fucking me from the end of the line. I was already kind of nervous because this event sat smack in the middle of the Venn diagram of crazy/difficult people, Ren fair attendees, and large international convention crowds, and I had already had a few weirdos make passes at me that day. She gave me her ticket, took my pamphlet, paused for a moment, and then proceeded to run her hand down my chest, purr, squeeze my muscles, etc. And then leaned into me and whispered into my barely legal ear that I was the stuff that dreams are made of, before letting out a little moan and groping my crotch. I was completely mortified, looked over at my friend who was standing opposite to me on the other side of the gate, before stammering "enjoy your stay" and turning to deal with the next customer. I thought that would be the end of it. Apparently, I was naive. Later that day, once my shift had ended, I headed off to go and explore the park further. Wherever I went, I felt weird. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched/followed, but chalked it up to being in the sun too long. Mid-afternoon, I was in the main aisle of the fair when suddenly the crowd parted to let a supply car for the food tent get by. That's when I saw her. The gropey woman from before was standing off to the side, filming/taking pictures of me. I pretended I didn't see her and turned to walk round a corner, thinking she was maybe filming the crowd/fair in general. She quickly turned to follow me, camera still rolling. Yeah, I noped the fuck out of there really quick. Till their teenage shirtless me gets felt up and photographed for an unknown period of time by a 35-year-old woman dressed as a fairy at a Ren fair. I was dressed as Rainbow Dash because I had seen some of the cute ones online and wanted to try my own. I like to be nice when I'm cosplaying because it's really cool to interact with people who get just as hyped about a good cosplay as I do, and those who just enjoy whatever cosplay I'm rocking. So this teenage girl starts talking to me. She's alone, so I'm nice and friendly. Then she sticks to me pretty hard, and I'm down to short, curt answers while she keeps trying to interrupt and follow me around while I'm taking photos with people. As I'm sitting down on a bench with a friend discussing our next cosplay, this girl sits down next to me and I pay no mind. Until she very quickly and forcefully grabs my arm and fucking bites into my forearm. Then she stays there, still biting me with all the strength of a 14-year-old who shops at Hot Topic and Muster. I tell her to stop and get off. So does my friend. Both of us are really not sure what to do because normal people don't do this. This is the part where every Redditor would say if she did that I'd punch her in the face. I don't know why I didn't do that. I was in shock that it was still happening. Eventually, my friend literally tears her off me. She had broken the skin through my jacket and it was bleeding a little. I walked away to clean it off. I ran into another friend who saw and asked for the story. I told her and went to the bathroom. After I got out, a guy from security was waiting for me. An officer from the local PD was there and took me over to the offices to identify the culprit and give a statement. I chose not to press charges, but took them on their offer to eject and ban her from the convention. The great news is that the community is very supportive, and many people came up to give me reassurances and solidarity after the event and offer their help if I ever needed it in the future with crazies. So yeah, out of everything, that's the craziest one. I ended up earning the title of Creep Magnet because of all of these. I'll try to keep them concise. Asterisk, a huge L cosplayer followed me and my friends around, made references to his milk that women like. We were eating milk pocky, so we pounced on that, tried to kiss one of the girls, and threatened to defeat the soul boy of the group using Naruto and Kakashi's combined taijutsu, so he could have his pick of the girls. Asterisk had my chest groped by a random Grell cosplayer who ran up and began grinding against me. Asterisk got bit on the shoulder so hard it scarred for a year. Asterisk, a Naruto cosplayer asked me and my friend, cosplaying Hamura and Madoka, to pose as though we were kissing him, while someone took a photo. Asterisk, the England cosplayer who threatened to attack my non-cosplaying buddy with a yaoi paddle if he didn't support the Empire. That's all I remember so far, but edited for formatting. Sorry, I was on my iPod, and it looked fine on there. I must learn not to trust Apple. Update because I remembered another one. I was cosplaying Krona from Soul Eater when I heard a scream of Krona from across the convention hall. I turned around and squinted. I have really bad vision, and I'd taken my glasses off for the costume. There were two fuzzy blobs. One blob called out, "Run, she loves you." I turned around, as though to do a joking slow-motion run. Then something very heavy collided with my back. Both my knees slammed onto the cold, very hard floor of the convention hall. The girl got off of my back, asked for a hug, and left. I made a rather elaborate Groot costume for Halloween this year. Spent about 2 weeks gluing and texturing tubes to make it all wood-looking and was ready to enter a costume contest. Halloween night, I eventually make it to this bar after standing around waiting for taxis for about an hour. I stroll up semi-frantically looking for somewhere to register for this contest when I get spotted by the crowd. 2 things I should mention. I'm black. I live in China. This notice of my arrival turns the crowd pretty frantic because the movie had just come to theaters over here. Photos were fast and constant. Started off rather normal, but then I started feeling hands everywhere. I'd be taking a picture with one person and have 5 hands on me. With the mask on, I had no peripheral vision, so things got super weird, feeling really fast. I figured the voting was all based on crowd favoritism though, so I just sort of panicked under the mask and dealt with it. Contest happens, win $300, super stoked. Attempt to leave, crowd of mostly Chinese people realizes that Groot is Groot and black. Mob descends again. It was by far the largest amount of stranger groping I'd ever had done to me. Far more than the old man who used to follow me around this grocery store and attempt to wipe the black off of me. Okay, so this was like 2010 or 2011 at Anime Detour, Minnesota. It was my first convention and my first time cosplaying. I went as Genesis from FFEI Crisis Core and happened to run into a couple girls dressed as Tifa and a Genesis clone, so we stopped and talked because matching costumes and stuff. As we're talking, a big drunk neckbeard comes up to us, dressed as Jeff Lebowski, complete with a "the dude" sign on his shirt if you couldn't figure it out. Casually as fuck, he starts hitting on Tifa. Trying to be nice, we told him we needed to get going because karaoke was starting soon. Turns out he loves karaoke, and he took theater in high school. How did we find this out? After subtly alluding to it, he starts serenading her with Phantom of the Opera. Finally, I just said we were leaving to head back to our room for the night. Before he could try to follow after us, a group of girls dressed as the cast of Sailor Moon walked by, and he did the creepiest stalker pivot I've ever seen. He followed after them, and I didn't see him the rest of the night. He was hanging out in the lobby the next morning, obviously hungover. And this is the end of today's video. I hope you liked it, and don't forget to comment an anecdote or experience similar to the topic of the video. Leave your like, share if you liked the video, and lastly, don't forget to activate the little bell so you don't miss any of our daily videos. Bye-bye.